All right, so we're back. We're going to look at a couple other little techniques that we want to place in our model. So yesterday we created our stairs. I want to spend just a little time with the ceilings and the roofs a little bit, making those, and then possibly making one more scene um, to add to our drawings. So I guess the first thing we want to do is we want to start with our floor. So let's hide a few things here so you can get to the floor. I gotta get all on there. And so yesterday we did cut the opening for our stairwell down to the basement. And today I want to kind of spend a little bit of time with the floor. Instead of making it one big block here, I want to divide up the rooms a little bit. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. It doesn't really matter to me, but I think there's probably an easy way to do it, and it has to do with intersecting the model with the floor. Right now, our floor should be flush with the bottom edge of the walls. Okay, and if we rotate around, you can see we got the floor here. Now, I want to break up our floor. I guess I got that other foundation on, so I'll hide that. There we go. And we gave our floor a thickness of 3/4. That's fine. I think what I want to do is I want to move this group up, just 1 inch. So hide everything so you can just see the floor. And we're not inside the group. We're just going to move that group up 1 inch. So just use your move tool. Make sure you stay in the blue or vertical axis. If you press the up arrow key, that locks you into that blue axis. And all we do is need to move up 1 inch. That should be plenty. So that puts that group around the interior walls. And if you look inside, you can see now we have no edges. You can't see the door swings, and that's what we kind of wanted. So now, everybody with me? I just moved it 1 inch. Just high enough that we're going to be able to use our intersect face. So that way we get the wall cutouts, and it'll be clearer here. So once you moved it up, then I'm going to edit that group, double click on it. And I just want to select that face. And then I'm going to choose right click, intersect face with model. Alright, so now I want to hide everything else. So if you double click on the floor again and go Control H, that hides everything. So now all you should have been left with are the outlines of the walls and your doors. Okay. So what we want to do, notice how I've got this selected here. This is the floor part, or the part we want to keep, along with your other closets and bathrooms and your bedrooms. These should all be sectioned off here. Then you may have to do a little editing. Zoom in. You might have some gaps in your walls, and just kind of trace those edges. So take some time to trace those different walls out. So I'll pause here and then I'll get around and look at. Um, like I said to some of you individually, if you're not getting your sections just perfect, that's okay. Just go in and check, see if there's any gaps in the openings of doorways and things like that. Sometimes you do have to retrace some of the edges to make sure that they're all coplanar. So I think the next part I just want to do is just select each of the individual floor spaces. And there's more than one way to do this. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. This is just one of the different ways you can do this. I'm just going to select just the faces I want. And I'm going to cut it. Control X. And then I'm going to click outside of that group. And then I'm going to delete that group because I no longer want that group. Because I have everything I need with that copy or that part that I cut. And then I'm going to go Control Shift V so that I paste in place. And now that just fits each individual room and each individual closet.
Our door swings
Okay. We remember that's one thing we have to take care of. We did move them up, but before you try to move them, we need to group them. Control G. Okay. So now all you're going to do is lower that group by 1 inch. I'm going to hide my walls here. So again, remember you can use the arrow keys when you're moving stuff. Make sure you lock it into the blue axis, and you want to go down 1 inch. And then one last thing we want to do, since we did just cut the faces of that group, we do want to add some thickness to the surfaces, and that's 3/4 of an inch. So we want to use the push-pull and push that down 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch, just so that we give it some thickness. And remember, you've got different sections in your group, so you gotta. Oop, that's going the wrong way. Now remember, this group needs to be placed in the architect walls group, or excuse me, architect floor. So make sure you assign that in the entity info, architect floor, because that was and we basically want to try to repeat that same process for the ceilings. Okay, so I'm going to unhide all, Shift H, hide the roof for right now, and we want to just kind of repeat that same process. You're going to move it down, intersect it, intersect the faces, and then repeat that same process. So 1 inch is good enough. And then I want to double click. Intersect faces with model. That gives you the surfaces, but looks like I've got some edges that are a little misaligned. Sometimes just tracing will break that coplanar edge. So you can see I'm just kind of going over the spaces that didn't. There we go. So again, I just want to select the ceilings to the individual rooms. Just like that. And then I want to control X. And then I'm going to delete that group. Oh, I had the wrong group selected. And then I'm going to paste in place. That's Control Shift V. Control G to group. And then I'm just going to pull that up 1 inch. I don't know if we need to give the ceiling a thickness. It's all possible. You can if you wish. So let me move this. It's a corner I can see. There we go. Move that up. Don't forget to place that under Architect Ceilings. Don't move it. Alright, so I'm going to save there and I'll pause, get around and help some. One other thing I did was on my roof, so Shift H, hide it all. On my roof, it was solid here, and all I did was offset it by 8 inches and then deleted the inside, the top of it. So that way we don't have the overlap of the ceiling and the bottom of the roof group. Okay, excuse me. So offset tool, offset it by 8 inches for the width of the outside walls, and then delete the center of the rectangle. That's all I did. So, all right, one last perspective and a little bit of conceptual viewing here. I want to show you a little bit. So I want to hide that original foundation plan, and I'm going to hide the roof and the ceiling. Now I want to drop in right here at the top of the stairwell. So I want to change my view from the camera from parallel projection to perspective. Okay, and then I'm going to grab the little figurine, and I want to set him right at the top of the stairwell. And I want to look down the stairs. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And I need to walk backwards a little bit because I want to see the stair steps going downstairs. Alright, so let's get to this point right here. We want to be standing on the top of the stairs looking down the stairwell. Now, there's a couple things that we'll notice right away. Let's click on the 3D perspective view first. It makes it a little clearer. And let's, while we're here, after you select 3D perspective, let's select and make a new layer, perspective, LO, perspective 06. And we want to make sure all those are checked. Now, since this is a 3D perspective scene, we do want to change the shadow settings here. Remember, turn shadows off. Use sun for shading. Set the light to 0. And the dark to 75. And after we do that, we want to hit the update button, update the scene. Alright. So, let's look back, remember at our cabin where we have a line here. This is actually where the walls and the foundation meet. Okay? We have to use that conceptual layer of always off because we don't want to see this edge. Okay? So there's a couple things that we need to do. Each of the groups, the foundation group and the walls group, we want to open those groups up and select that line or select that edge. Okay, so there, our interior, our walls group, I want to double click to get inside that. And then I have the exterior wall is the one I want to open up. So I want to double click that. And once I'm inside that exterior wall, I want to click that edge. And you can see I've already assigned always off to the exterior edge of the wall. Okay, now the other group I need to assign is the foundation wall. And so I want to double click on that and select that edge from the foundation and make sure that that's assigned to always off. Oops. And then finally, I want to make sure in the layers tab that always off is unchecked. And then my line disappears. So it looks like we have that one continuous wall. You might see some residuals, but that is fine. Be sure to update your scene. So again, we just kind of went through, cleaned up some of our roofs, cleaned up some of our ceilings. We looked at our conceptual layer of always off, hiding lines or edges that don't need to be there. If we want to get really fancy, we could even, yes, bless you. We could even look at the edges of the floor here and assign another layer that's always off. That would be our floor layer, so I can assign that to always off. And there is another line in the steps that we can assign to always off. And what I have to do here is, remember, take the line tool and trace just that little bit from the steps, and then select that line and assign that to always off. And then one last thing, for our perspective view, we really don't need our 2D graphics on there because we don't need to see the door swing. And so I can just go to the layers menu and turn off that 2D graphic. And so there it looks like we have one flat surface, no edges along the basement ceiling, or excuse me, the basement wall and the exterior wall. And all I have to do is update my scene. And so there we have that perfect view coming from the doorway, looking down the basement steps. Okay. All right. Is there any questions? All right. I'll get around, and I know some of you will need some help. But remember, we talked about the other day, got to make shutters, got to do your landscaping, assign those to the appropriate layers, and update your scenes. And then, we'll have today, and then we got a very long period tomorrow. We want to try to wrap all this up tomorrow, and then maybe we'll start looking at printing some of our designs and posting them. So, all right. So with that, we'll close out the session. Be sure to save and update.